Hello, good people. Thanks for joining me again. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Anne, and on my channel, I review foreign shows. Like I always say, we travel around the world, sitting on our couches, enjoying foreign content. If that's something you're doing or something you're getting into, welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right place. We've gotten used to watching shows and reading subtitles, which has been excellent. Some have subtitles, some don't, like this one, but it's just fantastic. And last week, we were in South Korea. Excellent show, Stranger. Check out my review. That was a really excellent show. But today, we are going to India. You know how we love our Bollywood, Hindi movies. But this one today is actually more of a documentary, and it's actually about the bad boy billionaires of India. This was very interesting documentary, which I believe this also applies to all over the world, just because I think in every country we have this, right? But this was very interesting. It's a show about three billionaires, tycoons from India who went, and it was interesting is that you see a lot of them, like some of them went from nothing to a lot of money, but then the question becomes what happens after that. So let's go ahead and meet our first billionaire. So he's our first billionaire that we meet, and his name is Malai. And the story is told that his dad was this rich guy who made his money by selling alcohol, beer to be specific. I believe it was Kingfisher, and it was actually on the time when India selling alcohol was against the law. Like it was during Prohibition time, and it was very, very hard to sell it. So it was kind of almost done like in the underground. They actually show a section where they show Mahatma Gandhi saying, if I think if he became prime minister or something like that, he would definitely abolish alcohol use in India completely. But obviously people still enjoyed drinking beer, and so they kept on selling it. And then what happens is his dad dies premature, and he's only 28. You can tell he's gone to like good schools, because when he speaks, you can tell he's educated, like I'm assuming he must have gone to England for his education. And he was involved in like racing cars, like NASCAR. That's the kind of thing he liked. And then all of a sudden, his dad dies, and he is called at 28 years of age to come and run his dad's business. So let's just say he's the kind of guy, obviously, that is wanting to take his dad's business higher. At the same time, he's also a very flashy guy. So everything he wants to do it big. So he not only find ways to promote alcohol, because it was against Indians' law to promote alcohol on TV. He buys an airplane, and on the airplane he calls it the name of the alcohol, Kingfisher. So he finds different ways, a rogue way, which was very smart, of advertising his products by owning an airline. And then I believe he also got in many other businesses. He was also went to invest in NASCAR or racing. And he becomes very, very wealthy. He's also loves everything that's extravagant. Like they show his 50th birthday where he has Lionel Richie come and perform. And then later when he's 60 years old, he had Enrique. But then what happens, which is a theme of all billionaires, especially the ones that go the wrong way, which these three billionaires that are discussed here do that, is when greed comes in, right? Because if you see this, you see it was very informational. So obviously he becomes greedy, and then he overextends himself. He's borrowing too much, and then obviously the return is not very good. For example, when he launched his airline company, it was nice. I mean, he offered where everybody got, there was no classes like, first class and economy. Everybody was the same, right? And then he tried to go even higher, where he's trying to offer now first class on another level. We all know how the world of the airlines can, sometimes business is very good and sometimes business can be also not very good depending on what's going on with the world. And it so happened at the time the prices of air fuel was very expensive. So obviously affected his business. And really, they gave him advice. His close friends were like, I think you should sell, get out. Right now, it's not the time for airlines to make money. But once again, greed, came into play. I guess pride and greed comes before a fall, like they say. What was sad to watch was, what happened to his employees. Like, that was sad to see how the stewardesses, the pilots, like there was one story, of a guy who was like, $100 for us, we could have lived on that for a long time, which was nothing to him. And when he stopped paying his debts, he's overextended, he's not paying the little people, especially in India, where the laws are not there to protect the little people. He knew there's nothing they can do to him, so he didn't have to pay them. If it was in other countries, it's against the law for an employer not to pay an employee. You'd go to jail. But in India, it just seems like, it's slow for like your day in court to show up, and he knows that. So he doesn't pay the little people. But any debts he had internationally, he was trying to pay those, which was kind of sad. Like, you really leave your own people to hang to dry. That was so sad. And then to hear that in the midst of all that, people are outside rioting that he hasn't paid them, and he's throwing a 60th birthday with Enrique. And by the way, his son was one of the commentators on there, who I was just like, wow, bro, I know he's your dad, and obviously you have to say things good about your father. But I was just like, it sounded like he was also drinking the Kool-Aid. It was almost like the son gave the excuse that he was used. When they finally caught up with him, he says that they used his dad as someone to almost make an example of. Almost like there was others who are worse, and it's probably true. There's probably other billionaires out there who are worse, who are involved in corruption, doing bad things, that were let go or were not caught, but his dad got caught and they used him as someone to make an example of. But I was just like, does that mean because you steal little, or somebody who steals bigger, that one is better than the other? I think you're both thieves. It's just that one is smaller and one is bigger. So to rationalize that, they were just trying to make an example of my dad, I was like, bro, I know. I was just like, I get it. It's your dad and you're probably feeling some sort of way, but it was kind of like, it was still wrong. It was still wrong. And anyway, you have to keep watching, but obviously his business collapses. What we're told is, I believe he's still in London, and I believe they're waiting to extradite him or bring him to India for justice. And then let's go and meet the second bad boy billionaire. So the second bad boy billionaire of India that we meet, his name is Nirav Modi, and he comes from a family that is well known in the diamond business. It sounds like his uncle has been in the diamond business for many, many years, and he actually worked under his uncle. We all know the diamond business in India is huge. I actually got a diamond from India, excellent diamond. So anyway, they sold to everyone, but he came in the scene when he decided he wanted to make like rare pieces, where they would make beautiful pieces, because he wanted them to be known internationally, right? So he created this piece that was just gorgeous, that ended up being in magazines like Christie's, I believe, is one of those like, wealthy diamond pieces are usually showcased there so that the rich of the rich can buy them. So anyway, he wanted to not only just make it in India, but wanted to go global. And to do that obviously meant having a lot of money. I also heard he was married His wife is also from a family that's very well-to-do diamond company family. They live in New York, and it sounds like he was more of a kind of a quiet guy, but she was like the socialite. So she really knew how to work the scenes. They actually show when he launched his store or company in New York, Donald Jr., Donald Trump's son, came. Okay, so really like the creme of the creme, like wealthy people, actors, celebrities, that kind of thing is what they're going for. And obviously his wife had very good connections. However, we find out the question is, how was he able to do that? And he would go lend, get money from banks in India, and which is something I learned. I did not know you could do this. I guess for the rich and the rich, or these big, huge companies, you can go to the bank, put some collateral down, and the bank is able to issue this letter that allows you to go borrow around the world, because this bank is vouching for you, saying he's trustworthy brand, you can trust him, and so give him money. So he was able to do that, and that's how he was able to like get money from different banks of the world, because this bank in India was vouching for him. Unfortunately, what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to put collateral for them to give you this letter that represents you, and he did not put collateral down. He would go and bribe the officers in the banks in that bank in India, and they would just give him the money or vouch for him. And then what happens? He's not paying his debt, and the day came to roost, because what happened was apparently the guy who used to work at the bank retired, and then they have new people who came in, and somebody went researching, and 1 + 1 did not make sense, and boom, they found out what was going on. And then obviously now all debts are due, he can't pay, and the bank, actually, I believe the bank went down, which meant now the taxpayers of India have to pay for that. And then he disappears, and people can't find him. And this journalist, I believe it's an American journalist in America, was tipped off about this story. So he went searching, and they found him in London, where he had kind of like gone underground, set up his business, like a little business. And then, they started following him, and they caught him on the streets and were like, where have you been? They're looking for you in India. Like you totally tanked a bank, and a lot of people were hurt, clearly. And obviously then they're able to catch him, and this guy was sent back. I believe he was sent back to India, and as we speak, is he in prison or waiting to go to court or something like that? You have to keep watching to the end. I believe he's in prison. But once again, with him, it was like what your uncle was doing for years was successful, but he became greedy. I mean, the idea was great, in the idea of like, let's make not just, regular pieces, like a diamond ring or diamond necklace. He wanted almost like the Rolls Royce of diamonds, right? And obviously that costs money. The other thing we learned too is he would set up companies, fake companies. I think they call them shell companies all over the world, and they were all under his kid's name. So say a diamond in India that he had was worth, I don't know, 100,000. He would make it look like that diamond was sold to that other company in, like, say, New York. And then now, because it was sold over there, now it's worth 200,000. Okay, don't forget, it's the same diamond being sold to the same person, right? So he would inflate this diamond, right, which is worth 1,000. By the time somebody who's buying it outside of his shell companies, which are fake companies, it's like inflated, and it's become like 600,000 from 100,000. So by the time the person is buying it at 600,000, he can easily cash in and sit on a profit of 500,000, which is a lie, because he really was selling it to himself to inflate the price of the diamond. So that's where, greed, once again, caught up with him. That's, that's where it caught up with him. And then obviously corruption and bribing the bankers, and really was not putting down collateral. There was no money, and banks can't function without money, so then the bank tanked. So, and as we speak right now, from what I heard, he is in jail in India. It's like sometimes you wonder, like, wouldn't it have been easier just to continue your life? Your life was already nice and cushy, but oh no, you want more and more and more. Greed, right? All right, let's go ahead and meet our final bad boy billionaire. Last but definitely not the least is the third bad boy billionaire of India. His name is Subrata Roy. And I have to say, I don't know, they were all pretty bad, but he was the worst, if you ask me. Because the way he made money, so the story is told that he came from like a poor family, and he always wanted, obviously, to make it. And so he had tried many things in business to try and be successful. And then what he started off was, I don't know if you've ever heard of what they call table banking. So how it works is we all bring our money together, and then when you need the money, you can borrow from that. But then his scheme, if you will, because it ends up being one of those like Ponzi schemes, was your money would double. If you put your money, it could be 3 rupees, 5 rupees, which is the Indian currency. He says if it's there for 3 years, it could double to 10 rupees if you had put 5, things like that. And then, so what would happen is when people want their money, he would also make them invest into something else. So it comes to a point where all he's doing is collecting money, and people never get returns back. Now, in the beginning, he did. And obviously people trusted this. And so obviously then it grew, everybody wanted to be in it. At one point, he had 1.1 million agents, because what he did was he had agents, and then they would go all over India signing them up for this. And he obviously became very, very wealthy. But what's worse is that he was taking money from like the poor of the poor. I mean, they showed a story of like a grandma who I think all her savings was gone. Another lady whose husband was sick, ended up dying, needed money, and they had invested into this Ponzi scheme, if you will. It's one of those pyramid Ponzi schemes that they do, and he never would give money back. And then it almost became a little bit like cultish, in where they all wear uniforms, they wear white, the agents, they had their own national anthem, they had a way of saluting. I mean, it was just like, whoa, this became like a movement, right? And obviously he became very wealthy. He's buying mansions, and I think he also had a plane. But obviously, he's not paying for their money back, and he starts to be investigated. People want their money back, and he is not delivering their money. And let's just say one thing leads to another. See, when greed gets in there, I think in the beginning, he probably was trying to do the right thing by helping poor people find a way of, it was almost like creating a little bank amongst the poor people, right? Where they could get credit, and then their money would grow. But then he became greedy, obviously. And then I feel like fame also like went, got to his head. Obviously with the big mansions and everything like that. What was interesting with him is when they put him in jail, he almost is like, what was funny was this one journalist was on here, made me laugh, where he goes, this guy goes to jail, and while he's in jail, because he still have supporters, I think there's people who to this day support the guy. Okay, they really love him. That's why it's like a little bit cultish. Like, how do you not see he's using people? He starts to write a book while he's in prison, almost like he's a freedom fighter or something. Like, don't worry, my people, I will come out and I will, it will be all okay. Which is kind of sad because, I felt like he was the worst. Like, he used poor people who had nothing, and he took the little that they had, and people who trusted him, right? So anyway, the moral of the story, really, with all of the three bad boy billionaires, and let me be honest, this happens all over the world. You know, we all know there's this kind of stuff. I think we even have one who's president right now. So you can't just judge India, it's all over the world. But it goes to show one thing we can all learn, because you know the important thing about documentaries is about learning about the human experience. The one thing is that I feel like all these three billionaires could still be billionaires right now if only they did not become greedy. Like, learn to be content. You already had so much. Like, be content, learn to do things the right way. Don't do corruption. Don't take advantage of the poor, the ones who don't have much. You know, do the right thing. You may not grow as fast as you'd want to, but I bet you all of them, if they were to be asked, would have been like, it would have been just been better to just like grow slowly the right way than to blow up fast in a corrupt way. Because in the case of all those three, and you can tell me if you watch this documentary, let me know what you think. Don't you think the recurring theme with the three of them was greed, right? It's when they started to become greedy is when it all fell apart, which all of us could learn, right? If we're all trying to make it in business or whatever you're doing, but I think it's a good lesson to always step back and just say, you know, am I doing it the right way? Am I getting corrupt? You know, am I being greedy? You know, because that's something I think you gotta check yourself, because the higher you go, I can see the temptation is like, I want it all. Like the first guy he wanted an airplane, he wanted to be in the NASCAR driving, and he's also doing alcohol, and he just overextended himself. What we found out for sure is that, you know, they call them billionaires, but they also have a lot of debt, millions and millions and millions of debt. So the question becomes, how much of a billionaire is it? You know, I think to be a true billionaire, you'd probably have to have more money than you have debt, right? You just can't say, well, he's worth billions of dollars. Is those billions of dollars in a bank account that is your own, or is it debt? You know, that's the question. And regular people like us can be like, oh my gosh, he's so wealthy, but maybe not so wealthy, huh? Like, the more we find out about these things, we find out some of them they're billionaires, but they're also in millions and millions and billions of debt. So anyway, I thought it was an excellent documentary. I think it's worth a watch to kind of know, to see how the rich become rich, and also how to teach us how not to do the wrong thing. So I would say give it a watch. I think it was well done. It's a documentary about the three billionaires of India that went down, if you will. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Next, we're going to Africa, so join me. Please subscribe, turn that notification button on, give me a like if you like this video, and I'll see you again when I review another excellent foreign show. Deuces.